welcome back to Open. Well, here today we welcome back our last guest, Emmy-nominated anthropologist, educator, activist, and songwriter, Dr. Raquel Ortiz. And well, she's here joining us in studio finally after her NYC tour showcasing all of her children's book, which we're going to talk about them as we go along, too many to name. And well, today though, she's brought us a special treat, a taste of her children's album, Que Vengan Los Niños, an album of Afro-Puerto Rican bomba songs for children sung in Spanish and English. And it was created in collaboration with the four-time Grammy-nominated Latin jazz legend, composer, and educator, William Cepeda. And bueno, por fin, let's welcome back to Open in person, Dr. Raquel Ortiz.
Thank you, Rhina. So happy to be here live with you.
I know, I'm excited. I know, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know, this is for real.
Yes, yes. Well, we've been through it, and I gotta say, you have really excelled, like, expediently in every single interview we've had. I mean, I wanna say our first interview was, I want to say, at the tail end of the pandemic, was it? It was like the tail end of the pandemic, which was done in my virtual studio, as we were referring to it back then. and that was prior to being nominated for an Emmy for Cucarachita Martina.
Correct, yeah. Our animated film, Cucarachita Martina's musical adventure. So it's been a journey, and I'm happy to keep sharing the books, and now the music with you.
I know. So but I want to introduce everybody. So she has Vicky and Summer of Change, which I have this. I should have brought my book so you could sign it. Oh, and because this is what, like, for me, it's like a classic. It's very educational. Actually, that's what I love about all of your books. The magic realism with the educational component, with the cultural roots foundations, right? And so she's got Sophie in the Magic Musical Mural. This is, I'm trying to do them in the order of which they were birthed, or I think maybe Sophie Paints Her Dreams may have been before that. Let's look at that one. So I have this book. I have Vicky. I also have Sophie in the Magic Musical Mural. And then the last time we had her on, we were introducing Broken Butterfly Wings, which I don't have my hard copy.
This will stay with you, and I'll sign it.
And now we have When Julia Danced Bomba. And so I think it was important for us to familiarize everyone with your work, because you write children's books, and there's a reason for that.
Correct, correct. Well, I'm trying to share our story, and as you mentioned, I'm an anthropologist, so we have this information, but we need to give it in a way that it's attractive, kind of like this show. If it's boring and too heavy, no one's going to tune in.
Right.
And with our children, it's even harder. So it was to figure out a way that I could take little pieces of who we are and what we do and what we do. We're here in the Bronx speaking in English to Puerto Rican women. And I wanted that kind of a story, because you see things about in Puerto Rico and different places, and that's beautiful, and we need that as well. But when you talk about a mural that is on a street in the South Bronx, that's a different story. Or when you talk about a little girl in English, trying to figure out bomba, not good at it, and it's not in the air, it's not in the blood, you know, it's a different kind of experience.
It is, and I want to say, even like being part of the diaspora, I wasn't necessarily raised around bomba music, right? I was blessed to have been in environments in which it was kind of being restored here in New York, right? You know, Tato Torres, Yerba Buena, and I know you brought Dr. Drum with you. I mean, Dr. Drum and I, we go way back. We go way, way back to the point that he knows I have a relationship to the drums in a way that I would say it's my blood that's calling it, right? So I'm saying all of this to say that it's so important to have these kind of books to reference at a very young age so that there's a better understanding of that call, right? And if let's say you're third generation,
Right.
and you're not necessarily speaking Spanish in the household, that doesn't make you any less of Puerto Rican
Does not.
or any Latino culture for that matter. And so, what you've done with these books, aside from giving it some historical context, because this is a very important book. This is a very important book. To me, this is like one of those books everyone needs to have in their household. Even if you're not Puerto Rican, because it really talks about the history of the Young Lords and from the perspective of a young individual. And I think it's important that we teach our children the history. And so I want to know how you're pulled to explore certain aspects of the culture and infuse the storytelling with it.
Right. Well, you mentioned with your you're a musician, about the folklore and the folk music. So I think to some extent it comes out of that. And when we're talking folk, it's oral. And sometimes our people aren't writing things down, but they're telling these stories, they're singing these songs. You spoke about Dr. Drum, he's singing to us our tradition. So that's something that's so important to us. So I took pieces of that, and that's helped a lot of my stories. And then a number of them have the public art, which, you know, in the Bronx and all in New York City, we see people painting our stories because sadly, we don't have a lot of spaces. You're one of those spaces, thank you. We don't. So then we figure it out. And we go to parks and we play the music, or we take walls and we create gorgeous masterpieces. And that resilience and that creativity needs to be celebrated, and it needs to be put into books and, you know, documentaries, and we need to say, wow, we figured it out, and we continue to make and we continue to celebrate.
So how has your tour been in New York thus far?
It's, you know, I'm not supposed to cry. You're not allowed to make me cry. I've been crying a lot out of joy, out of gratitude. I'm here with people today that have been with me throughout this whole journey. You saw me and you brought me on the show many projects ago. And it's hard not to be so full of emotions. It's very beautiful. I'm so excited that we were able to make the project. I'm so excited that people have been supportive of this project. It's in Spanish, it's in English, it's bilingual because we want to get as many people as possible. And it's so important what you said about you're not more or less Puerto Rican because you can sing these songs in Spanish, or that you know all the bomba moves, or that you can, you know, play a cuembe. We're Puerto Rican. And we need to celebrate that, and we need to let people, you know, learn and participate as much as possible, which is what I hope we've been doing with this music.
Right, and then you partnered up with William Cepeda.
I did. He's incredible.
Right.
His music is incredible. What he put into this recording was incredible. And he was the one that came to me and said he wanted to record with children. So we have children's voices, and I think we're trying to, you know, open up spaces and to cultivate some of these talents, because we need to have spaces and we need to support each other.
We absolutely need to support each other in a way of coming together versus the dividing the fact or being divisive, whether intentionally or not, being from the island versus not. In where, you know, there's people who come from the island and then there's vice versa. But at the end of the day, it really becomes a question of like, how do we preserve the culture, right? And I don't think that being here and speaking English as your primary language dilutes anything, right?
No.
And so if you're unfamiliar with it, then I would say it's our responsibility to pass it forward.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I say our because, you know, I'm in this platform and I'm trying to make sure that I bring guests on such as yourself who are developing within their own craft, right? Because, I mean, I got to tell you, every time I'm like, oh my gosh, you were like on fire. You're on fire. I mean, I had you on with Vicky and Sophie, and you already had Sophie Paints Her Dreams, but then out of nowhere came, you know, Broken Butterfly, and then now you've got this book, When Julia Danced Bomba, right? And that's a little girl, right?
It is.
So there's a reason behind that, and now a CD, not to mention the Emmy nominated Cucarachita, and there's something else that you did with Tato Laviera. It's not coming to me right away, but I remember, and that's more on the scholastic sector.
That's for the high schools, and that's education materials for teachers. So, yeah, we're trying, I'm trying, we are trying on all kinds of levels to be sharing, to be celebrating, to give people materials that they can use with our kids to make this fun and to make this relevant. And people like Tato, these big names, like William Cepeda, that's a huge name. Tato Laviera is a huge name. Iris Morales, who helped write this book, these are huge names. I'm surrounded by giants, and I'm living this alternative reality moment and loving it.
Well, what's really beautiful is that you're humble enough to partner up and not try to just do it by yourself.
We can't do it by ourselves. And that's why I'm so happy I have people here today that are going to help me do music, because I think that's one of the most important things with me about Bomba, is we talk so much about the circle and community and together. And Rhina, you know, when we do it by ourselves, we fall real hard. When we're with people, it's hard. You know, they hold us, and they breathe with us, and they hug us, and they dry our tears, and then we can keep going. This all would have stopped with the first one if it had been me and I.
Right.
But since it's us and we,
and
the hard days.
And community.
Exactly.
There you have it.
Because if not, you know, it gets too hard. And so.
Well, that is not where we are today.
No.
No, we are not celebrating the hardship. We are celebrating the victory and the success of this explosion you got going on here. And so before we go, let's share with our viewers what they're going to get a taste of.
Well, we have 12 songs. And
you have 12 songs in
we
the CD.
We do have 12 songs
Oh my
in the
gosh,
CD.
look at the CD, everybody.
So,
Que vengan los niños.
So it's supposed to be 6 to 8, and then William and I just kept going and going. But today, the song that we made our first music video, and we're going to share a bit of the song with y'all today, is Plantamos Banderas. And it's about us here, making spaces, us singing about our heroes, singing our songs, making community, coming together. And then there's a part at the end that when you hear the recording, and it talks about the different cities, presente. So it's, you know, saying we're present. And lastly, we start with Somos Caras Lindas, which of course is a nod to Titicure. And we are beautiful faces, and we also have this beautiful tradition that we need to keep celebrating.
Yeah, you guys, you got to stay tuned, because when she says the cities, she's talking about the cities in the United States, on the island too, but really in the United States, of where we are all present. So don't go anywhere, because when we return, Dr. Raquel Ortiz is going to perform for us together with Dr. Drum and Bob Ramos, and again, from the CD Que Vengan Los Niños, they're going to be presenting Plantamos Banderas, and you don't want to miss.